everyone. I thought you might like to hear a little Christmas story, and as you can see, it's set in the country, on a farm, maybe somewhere in East Lothian, and it concerns two little mice. Here's one of them. Here's Jack. That's Jack. We'll put you there. And his sister is called Lottie, and we'll put her there. Oops. She's been on the mulled wine already. And they, as I say, live on this farm. And you would think, because it was Christmas Eve, you would think that would be a nice happy time. But they don't look terribly happy, because it's that cat, grumbled Lottie. He always spoils things. And the cat that they are talking about is this fellow. And he's a very handsome cat called Hamish. And he's usually a nice cat, but he loves to bother the mice. He annoys them intensely. And what has happened is that Lottie and Jack have been saving up lots and lots of bits of food, and they've been storing it in that shed in the barn that's behind Lottie. And guess who found their stash of food? This fellow. And he has eaten it all up. There is nothing left, not one thing. So the poor mice were very unhappy that Christmas Eve. Well, what are we going to do? Said Lottie. Jack said, I don't know. He says, I have found this. I know we can't eat it, but I just thought it looked a little bit like a stocking. I've got two of them. We could hang them up and hope that Father Christmas comes and gives us a present. And that's exactly what they did. I'll show you what they did. They put this up inside their barn, and by the magic of Velcro, Lottie put hers up, and she had a clever mouse that she was. She wrote their names, Lottie and Jack, so that Father Christmas would know which was which. So that night they went to bed very early, because they were so excited and hoping that Father Christmas would come. And the night was very, very still, except for the bells. I wonder what that could have been. So then it was Christmas morning. Up they got, and they went straight to the barn to find out how their stockings had got on. Were they filled with presents? Were they? No, not a thing. Absolutely empty. Oh, they were so unhappy. But Lottie said, wait a minute, look at this. There's a note here that's fallen down. Oh, look what it says. Don't stop here. They've gone away. Well, we know who wrote that, said Jack. They both knew who wrote that. That wasn't very nice at all, doing that. I'll keep that note. Well, it's time we taught that cat a lesson, said Jack. But how on earth are we going to do it? Because he's a lot bigger and stronger than we are. Lottie said, I think it's time we went to see Ratty. Now Ratty lived in this big barn here, and he was known as Dave to his friends. And I'll introduce you to Dave. This is Dave. Handsome fellow, isn't he? And like a lot of very clever people, he wears glasses. And the clothes that he has on, he borrowed from the playroom in the big house. And he also borrowed furniture from the doll's house. He's very good at borrowing. So we'll put you back in your house. So Jack and Lottie decided to go across to Dave's house. Well, Dave's barn. But on the way, Lottie said, "Here, wait a minute, there's something glistening in the snow. What could this be?" And she rooted around amongst the snow. There was a lot of snow that year. And look what they found. "A bell," said Jack. "I bet it's a sleigh bell," said Lottie. "It's fallen off one of Santa's sleighs. Let's take it and show Dave," which is exactly what they did. They went over and showed Dave the bell. And I don't know quite what they were talking about all that time, but I do know that they closed the door very tightly so that nobody could hear what they were talking about. And after they had been in there for quite a while, out they came and they were all smiles. "Thank you so much, Dave," said Lottie and Jack. And he said, "The pleasure is all mine. Cats are the most terrible nuisance." And later, after a Christmas dinner of fruitcake that Dave had borrowed from somewhere and he had given to the mice, the mice were seen wrapping up a parcel. I wonder what that could have been. And later still, they were seen, well, they weren't seen because they were doing it very, very quietly. They both had to carry this parcel up the hill to the house, and they left it in front of the house. So the next day after Christmas Day is Boxing Day. And Mrs. Mackey, the farmer's wife, she came down the stairs and she spotted the parcel on the doorstep. "Oh, Hamish, come quickly. There's something here for you." So Hamish immediately, of course, came and he thought, "Oh, this is great. I wonder what present this is." So Mrs. Mackey took the parcel and she unwrapped it. But first, I'll show you the label. "To Hamish, with love." Doesn't say who it's from, but it says "with love." Let's see what it could be. We'll open it up. I'm doing it behind Hamish so you can't see. Look what it is. It's a bell. Well, a big bell and a little bell with a lovely red ribbon, said Mrs. Mackey. And before Hamish could run away, she grabbed hold of him and put the bell round Hamish's neck. He wasn't terribly happy about it. He wasn't thrilled. "There you go. Oh, don't you look lovely," said Mrs. Mackey. "Lovely." Well, poor old Hamish, he tried to, he's knocked things down. He tried his best to get the bell off. And he poked it with his paws. No, nothing was doing. "Don't you dare," said Mrs. Mackey. "You keep it on." So that very afternoon, he went away in disgust. He was not a happy cat. So later on that day, Lottie and Jack decided to go out to play. It was a lovely afternoon. The sun came out. There we go. And they went out to make snowmen and throw snowballs. They were having a lovely time. But all of a sudden, they heard bells. And of course, they ran to hide. They went into their little shed there. And Who, of course, could it be but our friend Hamish? Well, Lottie and Jack laughed and laughed, and of course they came out of hiding. They said, we don't need to hide anymore because we now know when Hamish is on the prowl. We do not need to hide at all. So they laughed and they laughed. And Jack said, well, it may not have been a very happy Christmas, but I have a feeling it's going to be a very happy New Year. So I'm glad that story had a happy ending. And I'll say goodbye from us all. We've got Jack and Lottie and Hamish and Dave. Are you coming out to say goodbye? Dave? Dave, don't do that. Out you come. Here's Dave to say goodbye. And have a lovely Christmas and a happy New Year. Bye.